Welcome today. When your meditation progress currently doesn't work, here are 3 points to obtain or even to increase your meditation progress. When your meditation progress suddenly stagnates or even doesn't work anymore, you're in the right place, because here you get 3 points what you can do against this stagnation, that your meditation progress can continue. This video is actually for advanced meditators, but also beginners can benefit here. The first obstacle is that your mind has expectations, as you know, almost all of the time, even in connection with your meditation progress. And here the first aspect is that some people have expectations to a certain person with which you meditate together, or with a certain group, or even with a whole Buddhist center or another religious place. And if any expectation is not fulfilled from the other persons, from the other people, then it can be that you say, I can't meditate because, and then you blame the others. I will give a more essential example for expectations in a minute, but first let's consider that cheap behavior of the ego, of the mind, which tries to use social situations to apologize, to be not responsible for their own meditation progress. And that's a bad thing, because the others are not responsible for your progress. And when, for example, a lockdown appears or anything happens, then people could always say, oh, I can't meditate because the center is closed or so. But it doesn't depend on the center. It depends on your own, on yourself. You are responsible. But if you watch videos like this, you are maybe a more advanced meditator. And therefore, I go in deeper expectations, in newer layers the mind develops to prevent you from the higher self or from your targets in meditation. The mind has also expectations when you meditate alone. In every case, it founds new expectations. For example, you had a very great meditation experience, maybe yesterday, maybe the day before yesterday, maybe last week, whatever, but your mind then expects minimum the same experience or better. The mind suddenly makes meditation a burden and expects the same success which you had earlier. And so it makes pressure. This is actually the superego part which is working there, which Sigmund Freud describes, which makes a burden from everything, which makes a dogma. It works very great the last time. This time it declined, and then you maybe, in the worst case, judge yourself for that instead of continuing meditation and forget about the earlier success. And that's already the solution. You have to clear the past. You have to clear earlier success in meditation, and of course in all areas of your life. You have to forget about everything. You have to start meditation always as a beginner, always from the very new, always if you have never meditated before, always without any expectation, not about, oh, I had such a success earlier, I must have this now again. And then it becomes a craving or a burden. Could also be. When it's a craving, then the it part of the ego is present, but you can observe that. The mind layer is just about that the ego wants to take center stage. Sometimes it takes the it, sometimes the superego, sometimes the ego itself. Whatever part is there, which is described from psychoanalysis, it always wants to take center stage and prevent you from higher self. It always wants to keep you in the ego. The ego always wants to be alive, always wants to keep its existence. That's the fight of the ego, and therefore the ego founds every time newer layers to disturb your meditation or even to destroy it. And the expectations as first point directly leads to the second point, because it is also expected that it works at the same place, also kind of an expectation. And therefore the second tip is to give up a certain meditation place. First of all, having a certain meditation place at the beginning, when one begins with meditation, it's a very good thing. And it could help you for years to have a certain place in your own apartment or in the nature or in any religious institution, wherever. It helps even the mind that it now knows, aha, meditation progress begins. It's kind of a ritual to have a certain place with, maybe you have a candle there, or maybe you have, you know, a very high comfort there, or so. You can manage your place as best as possible, but one day it will not work anymore. And this is because ego has found a new layer. It made the certain place a not meditation place. It even starts sometimes with mind wandering again and again. And these are the first signs, or even overthinking when you sit on the place and meditation works not for weeks or so. Then you have to change something here. But this obstacle appears just if you are a meditator for a longer period. And in this case, you can change something and you have to manage the meditation place. And this goes this way. You stop to have a certain place. That's all. And when you are on an advanced level, you are able to meditate everywhere. Of course, not in situations when you are intensive talking or sitting in front of a camera or whatever. But in most cases, or even when you sit in front of a camera and you feel comfortable, could also be that you are meditating at the same time. But in most cases, when you are free and just have time, you can meditate everywhere. During public transport, for example. Therefore, I always recommend it, and I explained it why in the other video. I use more public transport instead of using the car, because you can use the situations where you are kind of passive, that you can meditate everywhere, or you have an easy or a simple job, not a job in an office where you have to think all the time, where you are involved in thinking processes. This, of course, breaks your meditation, but you can choose simple jobs like working in a garden or as a forester or kind like that, that has something to do with nature, something to do with bodily work. This could be a very contemplative work style where you can meditate all the time when you don't have to think so much. For example, I have, besides my official job, several small volunteerings where I go and support disabled people and just clean their house or so. This is very simple work, but at the same time, I can meditate. And that's a great thing. I really can recommend that. But you don't have to work like with disabled people, or you don't have to, I don't want to say you must have a volunteering. You can also earn money with a simple job and meditate at the same time. So it's a win-win situation for your material life, but also for your spiritual life. And that's great. What also helps is that you can have several certain meditation places. For example, I have one at my home, one in the forest, or several in the forest, or even in few forests around my town. So have several meditation places, or even try to meditate during going, during public transport, during, in the best case, each action. When you can stay in meditation the whole day, that's the highest target. And then it one day will happen that you can reach even the highest target. The third thing to overcome stagnation in meditation is to change the method, or is, first of all, the method itself. Actually, there are two aspects. The first thing is, and I would really recommend it, stay at the meditation method as long as you can. Because it's also another layer from the ego to say, oh, this meditation method is so boring, and tomorrow I take another one, and the next day another one, and you know, and then you don't get a routine and you don't develop. And at the end, you have just tried all meditation methods and there is no progress in self-development. Therefore, first of all, the very basic thing is stay at one method as long as you can. And if it doesn't work for weeks, for months, or at some of you, maybe it worked for years, and suddenly there's an obstacle and it doesn't work anymore. And then you can change when it really doesn't work after a few weeks or minimum 1 week. Try it when you have a new method. Try it minimum 1 week, even if it doesn't work the first day, the second day, but maybe the third or fourth day it will work. And after 1 week you can change, but just if you have really used the same method 7 days in a row, then it really makes sense to say it really doesn't work, I try another one. And this is especially for advanced meditators, that at a certain point a change is needed. There are several methods on this channel too, and it is still growing. In the future, other methods will appear also. But for now, especially at obstacles, you can also combine two methods. For example, you use a breathing method. You observe your breathing. It's a very simple method, which can be very effective. Actually, always the most simple methods show the greatest effects. But when one day it doesn't work anymore, then you can add another method, the observing method. That means you breathe, you take your normal method, in the case if it is your normal method with breathing, and then it doesn't work anymore, but then you start to observe why it doesn't work. You start to observe the thoughts which are about why it doesn't work anymore, and which appear when you try to use your normal method. And so in this case, the second method is the observing method. So you use at the same time the breathing method and the observing method, which is about observing the thoughts, which are maybe blaming the breathing method. It's so boring, or I haven't used it so often and it doesn't work. And you observe all the thoughts, and that's even a higher method, but you can combine it. I hope and I wish you a great meditation progress, and maybe some aspects from this video could help you too. If there are still questions left, please let me know down below in the comments. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye.